Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Okay. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Please join soon. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Okay. Asha Krishna. Hi, Asha. Hello. Hello, guys. Okay. So today we are going to discuss about system and human health and disease. If you see this human health and disease, we kept in two parts, right? Today and tomorrow also. So we will be getting two parts. Yeah, please join. Uh, may I know who is from Metric? Can you give your names, Metric students? Yeah. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Meanwhile, what you can do is for this ecosystem for your juniors, I already gave one worksheet. I mean that is a flowchart thing, right? The entire lesson kept in a flowcharts. Okay, fine. Shamili. Okay. So for metric students, this worksheets will be very much it will be very useful because maybe it would be difficult to follow NCERT right now, but it's very easy to follow NCERT as well, CBSE books, right? So that's why I'm giving only the contents and the important highlights of the topics as well, so that everyone can make. Okay. So I'll be posting a link here. So in that link you can access material and previous classes also. So here if you see for the ecosystem, I made some flowcharts. Okay, you can go there and download over there. Okay, if you click there, you can find out the entire ecosystem flowcharts, so that it will be very easy to follow. Clear? So without any waiting, so we'll wait one more minute and then we will quickly go. Okay. Meanwhile, you can download that. Kanishka, sir. Okay, Kanishka. Okay, Shamli Kanishka from Metric, it seems. Remaining CBSE students, I know most of the CBSE and few from Metric. Okay. So meanwhile, you click this link, click that link, and then you can get that PDF over there. Okay, you can keep that while you're reading as well. I'll give the outline of this chapter as well, as usual. Okay, let's start with the ecosystem, right? So if you access that flow chart, meanwhile, or after the class also you can go through. It's very easy to follow. So in ecosystem, right? So without wasting much time, we'll go for the. Okay. Yeah. Good morning. So everyone is here, right? Sir, voice is inaudible. Is it so? Are you able to listen? Are you able to follow? Guys, is my voice audible? Reminding, is my voice is audible? Is everything is clear so that you can start? Please refresh. Uh, Pungudi. Pungudi, yes. The name is very different. Okay. Pungudi, please refresh the page so that you may get that without any disturbance. Now is it audible? Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So in this lesson is very interesting lesson and morning. So this is one of the interesting lesson in 12th standard bio part. I really like this lesson, right? Because the concepts that we learn in this, we can really relate to our, working economy as well, right? So there is a connection in the sense the terms and the way the economy and ecosystem works in a more or less a similar way, right? So we have a GDP here, we will have an NPP, right? That we will talk about the entire aspects of the ecosystem, right? So is everyone is here? I can see still people are joining. Okay, we no need to wait much longer now. So in this ecosystem, first we have to know about what are the different types of ecosystem, right? So if you see the different types of ecosystem, we have natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem, right? So here in natural, so in natural we have again terrestrial ecosystems and aquatic ecosystem, right? Yesterday also I told, right, the entire earth can be considered as a giant ecosystem, but for our convenience and for our understanding purpose, what we are doing is we made them as we are studying them as small biomes, right? So to understand them, right, so we made into partitions, right? So if you see this ecosystems can be of natural and artificial, and in natural again terrestrial and aquatic. So in terrestrial again you will have forests, deserts, grasslands, and in aquatic you have oceans, lakes, wetlands. So this is in the first slide itself. You will get it, the entire idea of the ecosystems, how they are differentiated, and what are the types of ecosystems you see, right? So there will be much confusing also. So with the natural, with the artificial as well. Can you give any? Can you guys can give any? This lesson is already done, right? So can you give any examples for the artificial ecosystems? Natural, everyone knows. Can you give examples for artificial ecosystems? Yeah, crop fields. Exactly. Correct. So if you see this croplands and aquariums and gardens, orchards, you find these the ecosystems are artificial, man-made, right? And then next, coming to the ecosystems, right? So how do we really study ecosystems? So what exactly the ecosystem has? What are the components of ecosystem for that matter? So when we talk about components of ecosystem, we have structure and functions, right? So the ecosystem will have structure and functions. Ecosystem will have structure and function. It means we can study ecosystem of its functions and the and structure as well. So to have certain functions, right, it has to have some structure. For example, in structure, what we will study is biotic components and abiotic component. For example, I am biotic component, and the temperature around me is an abiotic component, right? So how we both are interacting makes us a function, right? So likewise, in a larger perspective, you see a different ecosystems like natural or artificial ecosystem can be studied, structural wise and the functional wise. It means it has structural components and functional components. And structural components, you will be having biotic components and abiotic, and functional components you will be having productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. So you are much aware of this lesson, and all these four aspects we will be covering one by one, just an outline. So productivity is one of the important function, just like any other function in the ecosystem. For example, decomposition. What is productivity? We will discuss. And decomposition, energy flow from the bottom to top. How this energy is flowing. You would have remembered the 10% law as well, right? And then nutrient cycles. What are the different nutrient cycles are involved in the ecosystem? So all these four will make the functions of the ecosystem. And then the structural components are nothing but biotic and abiotic components, right? So this is one of the aspects. So are you able to, Zoom, correct. So are you able to follow? So far is it clear, right? So likewise, what we have seen is the natural, artificial. In natural, again, we are having different types of ecosystem. In artificial, different types of ecosystem. And now we are talking about the structural, how we can study the ecosystems, right? How can we study? It's what do you say? It's functional aspects and structural aspects. Structural, you have biotic, abiotic components, and now within the structure, what are the biotic components? What we can study in the biotic components, what we can study is the numbers of the organisms, life history of the organism, and population. Organism makes population, makes community, right? And then final ecosystem, and then you will be getting biomes. This is a hierarchy, right? So this is how this in ecology unit you would have studied already, right? And then distribution of species. So how these biotic components would be distributed? Nothing but the species distribution. So four components will be present in the biotic components. That is, number will study, life history, population, and distribution of species. So, and then within the structure of ecosystem, abiotic components. In abiotic components, we'll be talking about nutrients, water, climatic conditions, and physical conditions. So these are the structural components of the ecosystem, where we already talked about the water and climatic condition, physical conditions in organisms and population. How does the physical component or physical or abiotic components do, or abiotic factors do affect, right, these biotic components, right? That we already discussed, adaptations, etc., in organisms and population. So here in this chapter, what we will be more in depth, we will be discussing on productivity, like the functions of the ecosystem, right? So the entire lesson is dedicated to talk about the functions of the ecosystems. So in the functions of ecosystem, we have productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles, right? So here, in this lesson, what is the important aspect is that productivity. So what exactly the productivity, right? So solar energy, if you see, it's a basic requirement for any ecosystem. You take it aquatic or terrestrial, you need the energy which is coming from the prime source, the sun, right? At the same time, if you see the deep oceanic, deep thermal vents will be the source of heat for the deep sea organisms. So if you see this productivity can be studied, right? It's nothing but the rate of biomass production. Biomass production is called it's nothing but productivity, right? And it is expressed in grams per year, or it can be it can be even expressed in kilocalories per year. So right, per annum. right? So in this way we can use these units, and sometimes these units are also important when it comes to the NEET exam, right? You should not get confused, right? So within this what do you say, within this productivity you have GPP and NPP, right? Nothing but the GPP and MPP, right? So if you see this productivity, it again it can be divided into two things: primary productivity and secondary productivity. Okay, are you able to follow, guys? I'm going little. Okay, functions are of four types, right? One is productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycle. Now what we are discussing is the outline of the productivity. Okay, guys. So in the productivity, are you able to follow, guys? We are talking about productivity, first function of an ecosystem. I just gave outline. Just yeah. Okay. So in productivity, if you see the productivity, right? Productivity can be again differentiated, or it can be divided into primary productivity and the secondary productivity. So, and please do remind that this is not a it's not a regular kind of a class setup, right? So that too, this is an outline of chapter. Within a time limit, I am trying to pick the correct pick the important topics, right? So if you need any further explanation, you can contact me as well, right? So let us finish this outline. So within the productivity, you have primary productivity and secondary productivity, right? In the primary productivity, we will talk about the, you know, we'll be talking about gross primary productivity. What is it? Gross primary productivity is nothing but its rate of production of organic matter, during photosynthesis, right? And if you see that producers, or what, who actually produces this GPP, right? And for production of this entire energy, this entire GPP, they consume, they waste some energy, right? And then if we subtract that loss of energy, that is denoted by R, right? So that we get the NPP. So the net primary productivity is something which is dependent upon the GPP, which is produced by the trophic level. First trophic level, that is nothing but the producers of any ecosystem, as simple as that. So within the primary productivity, so we are talking about, right, GPP and NPP. So GPP is something, the primary productivity is done by the producers, and while it's getting the GPP, gross primary productivity, right, it consumes energy, and loss of energy would be taking place, and that is denoted by R. And when we subtract the GPP and the R, that is loss of energy, we get the NPP, that is net primary productivity. So this is the net primary productivity, is what the next trophic level organisms would actually depend upon. So if you see, these are producers and then consumers, right? So within the consumers, you have different types: herbivores, carnivores, top carnivores. So these are the trophic levels, isn't it? So within these trophic levels, right? So within this trophic levels, this NPP is what utilized by the next trophic level. For example, consumers. So nothing but the secondary productivity, right? Secondary productivity is nothing but the organic matter form is produced by the heterotrophs or consumers, is nothing but the secondary productivity. Okay, so it is the rate of formation of new organic matter by the consumers, that is secondary productivity. And then secondary productivity is dependent upon the NPP, right? Is it clear? Are you able to follow? So far what we discussed is simple. If you put in this simple equation, NPP equals GPP minus R. Yeah, is it clear? Yes, guys. or am I going fast? So this is how the productivity, in the productivity you have primary productivity, secondary productivity, and the secondary productivity depends upon the primary productivity NPP, right? So this is how the function of an ecosystem would be depending upon. And in this, the number numerical that you have to remember is 170 billion tons dry weight of organic matter is produced annually by the whole biosphere. I told now the entire Earth can be considered as a biosphere, and that biosphere is producing this annual NPP after loss of energy. That is nothing but GPP minus R, right? After calculating this NPP, the net primary productivity of the entire biosphere, Earth biosphere, is about 170 billion tons in dry weight, right? So this much of organic matter is produced annually. That's about the productivity. Is that clear? So this is one of the function of the ecosystem. So you can come back to this video again, guys, right? If you have any doubts again, and I'll give worksheet. I'm giving different types of worksheets as well. And coming to the next functions, right? The next functions. Sorry. So if you the next function, right, that is decomposition. In the decomposition, the process of decomposition is of different levels and different types, right? So this is one of the function of the ecosystem. So if you see in the decomposition, you will be having fragmentation, leaching process, catabolism, humidification, mineralization. So these are all the processes that occurs in the decomposition, and the decomposition is one of the important functions of an ecosystem. So let's see quickly about what is fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification, mineralization. And you know one thing, that these definitions can be asked as correct or incorrect statements, or you will be getting column A, column B, and you will be getting the match the following, and these are little confusing as well, right? So you should be carefully reading this stuff. So this is the hot topic in this important topic of this lesson. Nothing but the in decompositions, the different definitions. Okay. And when you see this decomposition as a function, it is depending upon three important factors. That is chemical composition of the detritus. I will talk about what is detritus. You already known about the detritus. Detritus is nothing but the dead organisms, dead tissue and the organic matter, right? So that forms the detritus in an ecosystem, right? So the chemical composition of the detritus is also important for decomposition. It means the decomposition is depending upon what type of the organic matter material that it is decomposing in an environment. That is what one of the aspects, right? So it is a polythene or lignin, pectins, or just an animal tissue. This is the different composition of the detritus, right? So decomposition depends upon three factors. One is chemical composition, next is temperature, and then soil moisture. So soil moisture is very important for organisms, microbes to microbes. This decomposes to actually actively grow in that kind of an soils, right? And then temperature, obviously. Okay. Yeah. So now what we are discussing is about the decomposition, right? So in the decomposition, again, we have different processes. So if you see this different steps of decomposition, we have fragmentation. Fragmentation is nothing but, I gave in flowchart very clearly. If you see this, within 10 minutes, you can finish this chapter outline. So fragmentation is nothing but breaking down of detritus. Detritus, just now I defined. What is detritus is also I defined, right? Can you at the end of the class, I will ask few questions, right? Whether you're following or not, I will try to clear it out, right? So detritus is nothing but the dead tissue and or for example plant tissue and of leaves, etc., organic matter. And then, so fragmentation of this detritus is breakdown of this detritus is nothing but fragmentation. And within the decomposition, the next process is catabolism. Enzymes degrade this detritus. Okay, enzyme de- degrade degrades this detritus. So enzymes or bacterial enzymes would actually act upon this, and they break complex organic molecule into simple inorganic or simple molecules that it can be recycled or reused. So this is second step. And the third one can be, the third important process is humification, or the formation or accumulation of humus, right? Humus is nothing but dark amorphous substance, right, in a soil, and this humus is resistant to microbial action. So what happens if it is resistant to microbial action? Can you guys tell? Can you guys tell what happens if this humus is resistant to microbial activity? We are talking about decomposition, right? Within the decomposition, 5 different types of processes we are talking. Fragmentation is clear, breakdown of detritus, and then second one is catabolism, breakdown of organic molecules or matter with the help of bacterial enzymes. And the third one we are talking about is humification and formation of humus, amorphous dark substance within the soil, right? So and it has a property that is it is resistant to bacterial activity. What does it mean? What happens if it is showing resistance to bacterial activity? Yeah, Arshia. Yeah, correct. Decomposition will be at slow rate, building up organic substance. Okay, so it means it's decomposing slowly, undergoes decomposition slowly. Yeah, very good. Sridaksha. Yeah, Sridaksha. Okay, fine. So let's move that this humus and its properties are important when it comes to this neat thing. And yeah, Matyodana, correct. Slow rate, correct, right? And the nature, chemical nature of this Renuka Devi, correct. So if you see the chemical nature of this humus, it is being a colloidal, in nature, right? So it serves as a reservoir for much of the nutrients. And the last process what we're going to talk about is the mineralization. Yeah, Srimati, correct. Yeah. So if you see the mineralization, it is nothing but this these inorganic nutrients, right? Inorganic, yeah, Shivakanan, correct. So mineralization is nothing but it is release of inorganic nutrients due to degradation of humus by some microbes. So slowly this humus will be degraded, right, and then it will be going inside the you know it will be actually releasing inorganic nutrients. That is the mineralization. So humus, which is formed by humification, and then mineralization is nothing but form. And because this humus is rich of nutrients, it is to be utilized. If it has to be utilized, these microbes will act on them. Though it is slow, right? The humus will be degraded and then releases inorganic nutrients. That is mineralization, which will be the last process. And when we talk about the leaching is nothing but the draining of water soluble in inorganic nutrients. Okay, so one leaching is one of the process where inorganic nutrients will be, water soluble inorganic nutrients will be leached. Nothing but draining. Leaching is nothing but draining into the soil, right? And you have to remember that what are the factors does affect the decomposition. That is important aspect. As simple as it, right? So when we talk about the functions, right? The next function what we are talking about now, we talked about decomposition, right? And the next two functions of an ecosystem is completed, and the two are remaining. One is energy flow and the nutrient cycles. So when we talk about the energy flow, So energy flow is from different trophic levels. If you take producers and consumers, right, we have producers at the bottom, which are occupied at the bottom. We place in a pyramid-like structure, which even we will be talking about different types of pyramids in this lesson. Types of pyramids is very, very, very important, because they may give different types of pyramids and they may ask you to find out what they are. I'll try to give example as well. Right, I gave in the outline of the chapter also what are the different types of pyramids. Is it upright? I will try to discuss. So if you talk about this energy flow, the flow of energy would be there from one level to other level. If you take producers and consumers, again primary producer and primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, like that trophic levels would be present. And this process of arrangement of organisms based upon their it is a categorization or is nothing but stratification, right? This trophic level arrangement, right? So the definition of stratification also very much important. Okay, in this PAR, energy for PAR, nothing but photosynthetically active radiation, right? This is important. So how much percentage of PAR is actually captured by plants is might be a potential question, right? 2 to 10% of PAR will be captured by the plants, photosynthetically active radiation, because the entire sun radiation cannot be utilized by the process of photosynthesis, right? So some of the solar radiation, which is less than 50%, will be only utilized by the plants, that is nothing but producers. Okay. So human health and disease. Fine. Yeah. So if you see this energy flow, this energy which is coming from the sun can be distributed to different types of ecosystems. We have terrestrial and aquatic, right? And then we'll be talking about different types of food chains, right? So this energy will be going from one trophic level to other trophic level, because organisms would directly or indirectly depends upon other organisms based upon the trophic level. And based upon these different types of characteristics, we can differentiate these food chains into two types. One is grazing food chain and second one is detritus food chain. You may get some sense of already this lesson is done for you, so it will be more clear for now to revise. So in this food chain, we have grazing type of food chain on terrestrial ecosystems, and even aquatic food chain also you will be finding grazing type of food chain, right? So you'll be finding you'll be having a source of energy, and then producers, and then consumers, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Like this flow of food or nothing but the food chain would be taking place. So this type, the one organism would depend upon other organism directly or indirectly. This makes this grazing type of food chains. So in the grazing type of food chain, primary consumer feeds on living plants. So that is one of the aspects. But in the case of detritus food chain, primary consumer feeds on the dead organic matter, as simple as that. So what is the difference between grazing and the detritus? Is detritus is something a dead organic matter. So producers, right? The primary consumers will always depend upon the producers for the food, energy, whatsoever. So in grazing type of food chain, this primary producers with primary consumers would actually depend upon these producers. And in second type, that is detritus food chain, the primary consumers depend upon the dead organic matter, nothing but the detritus. So in this way, two types of food chains, be it in the grazing food chain, can be of terrestrial as well as even aquatic food chain, right? So detritus food chain, where you will be involving detritus, microbes, decomposers. For example, earthworms, unicellular decomposers and the multicellular decomposers like earthworms, snails also will be Actually, mollusks, nematodes, worms, actually these are all will be involved in this detritus food chain. And these worms will be eaten up by small carnivores, and these small carnivore fish would be eaten up by the large carnivores or birds. So this is how the food chain would be taken care. And if you see here, the grazing food chain, after the death of the grazing food chain, nothing but the organisms which are there in the grazing food chain, once they die, so this organic matter is now readily available for the detritus food chain. That's it. So how this detritus food chain is operating based upon the grazing food chain? It means that on the death of the grazing food chain, the detritus food chain would be operated. And so are you able to follow now? So is it clear, guys? What I'm explaining, are you able? Is it able to make sense, and are you able to follow? Ma, please reminding everyone should respond, ra. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. Okay, fine. Let me move forward, right? So nowadays food chains put together, right? So in interconnected way forms a food web. So food web is very important. And in this chapter, right, this when we talk about food chains, they may give one simple food chain, and they may ask you to identify what is a consumer, like how this food chain is working, whether it is a grazing food chain or detritus food chain or aquatic or terrestrial. If it is terrestrial, which might be the producers, right? These might be the some tricky questions you may expect. But most probably the pyramids in this lesson, this pyramids will be very much important in this chapter, right? So if you see this trophic levels, ecological pyramids, right? If you see the ecological pyramids, right, we can differentiate ecological pyramids into three types. One is pyramid of number, pyramid of next one is pyramid of energy, and then the third one is pyramid of biomass. Okay, so these three pyramids are very important, and these are potential questions because you will get examples. And these are all if you look around, you can see around your now you no need to go out, stay home, stay safe. But maybe during the class you would have already mentioned about this, that these ecosystems you can really observe by yourself, these pyramids also. Now let's talk about this pyramids outline, that is pyramids of numbers. Pyramids of numbers can be upright means in this way, right? So base would be broad, and the tapering at the top, right? So this would be just like a triangle, right? Inverted is inverted triangle. Spindle is something where it is bulged in the center. So a pyramid of number can be upright, inverted, spindle. So here in the number of pyramids, maybe they may ask questions like, in what case the pyramid number of pyramid would be upright? Within these options you have to find out. So which type of an ecosystem you find this kind of an upright kind of a pyramid of number, and which ecosystem you will find inverted type of pyramid, and which type of an ecosystem you will find spindle form of an pyramid also. It will be very much important. Okay. So when we talk about pyramids of numbers means the producers will be more, right? So it's for example, if you take example of grassed land ecosystem. So grass is to be producers, and it has lot of number, right? So compared to these producers, the primary consumers are less, and compared to primary consumers, secondary consumers are less, and compared to secondary consumers, tertiary consumers maybe one or two or three, right? It means one of the trophic levels, the organisms which directly or indirectly depend upon the producers, and the secondary consumers which are directly or indirectly depending upon the primary consumers, right? This is how we arrange in numbers. We get an upright kind of an what do you say, pyramid in the case of grassland ecosystem, right? So upright kind of an ecosystem, and then it means the base is broad, so producers are actually more in number, right? It is in the case of grassland ecosystem, okay? And when it comes to pond ecosystem, right? Pond is aquatic, right? So in the pond ecosystem also you will find upright of ecosystem. So you may get a match the following, right? Column A, column B, pond ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, and you will have parasitic form of food chain for that matter, right? So which is upright, is it inverted or spindular? You might be you might be asking about to match them. So in the case of parasitic relationship, right? If you take a parasitic relationship, right? So there is one parasite. It means, for example, tree. If you take a tree as an one of the example for the a simple ecosystem in which what do you say? If you count the number of associations that this tree has, right? One only tree is one, right? On tree you will find herbivores, nothing but birds. You will find birds will be on maybe one or maybe 5 or 10 will be there. On birds, right? Ectoparasites would be depending upon these herbivores, isn't it? No, these birds are actually depending upon the trees, and the ectoparasites are depending upon the herbivores. Ectoparasites are like head lice. We have it on our right. Ectoparasites, which lives on the host, outside the host, right? So on the birds, ectoparasites are there, and they are more than the herbivores, more than the birds number itself. And hyperparasites. On parasites, these organisms will be depending. So if you see this parasitic relationship, right? Tree at the bottom is only one, means it shows in this way. So tree at the bottom, herbivores, and then ectoparasites and hyperparasites. So in this way, these are the examples you need to focus. Okay. So these are the one of the example when it comes to pyramids of inverted pyramid, right? When it comes to spindle shape of pyramid, where we can find in again tree type of an interaction. One tree is there, many herbivores are there, but carnivores which are there will be very one or two, that's it. So it will come, carnivores are less in number, right? So it would look something like a diamond shape, where the carnivores are few in number, one or two, and tree is only one, and you have birds many. So this comes the spindle type of a number. And then we talk about pyramids of energy. And pyramids of energy is always upright. It means from producers to consumers to top consumers, always the energy would flow in a single direction. Okay, it means always upright. Okay, so the producers are being the more kind of an energy production. So always the pyramid of energy would be upright. So when it comes to pyramid of biomass, can be again upright, inverted, and even spindle. Okay. So pyramid of in the pyramid of energy, we talk about 10%, 10% law, right? In every trophic level, only 10% of energy would be, transferred. It means thousand at the bottom and 100, 10, and 1. This is how energy would be actually even transferring from one trophic level to other trophic level, and remaining would be wasted for their own metabolism or energy loss, right? This is 10% law in an ecological terms. So even pyramid of biomass can be of upright, inverted, and spindle, 3 types. So where exactly spindle type of pyramids you will be identifying is seal, right? Seal, if the seal is interacted, seal interaction within an aquatic ecosystem would be an spindle shape of pyramid in the case of pyramids of biomass. Okay, but in the case of aquatic being, the producers are like an phytoplankton, right? or for example, these zooplankton or phytoplankton are very less in number, and then herbivores would be more, and then carnivores, the size, I'm talking about the size of the biomass or the size of the organism. If you take a shark, right, its biomass is too huge, right? We are not talking about the number, right? So the weight, the biomass, the dry weight or biomass of these producers are very less in case of aquatic. So that, so when we talk about aquatic ecosystem, right, the bottom, the producers will have less biomass, and then compared to herbivores will have more, and then finally carnivores like shark, seal, shark, etc. will have huge biomass. So it will be inverted, as simple as that. But when you see the seal, right, seal has more less biomass, right, compared to this herbivores and primary carnivores. So if you see that example in the flowchart, you can get the sense. So these are the different types of anode pyramids, and there is a limitations for all these aspects, right? So there are limitation for considering limitations for this is that in this pyramids where simple food chains are considered. Okay, and what are the other limitations are they don't consider food webs. Food webs are complex to really trace down these pyramids, and then decomposers being said that this is one of the important organisms of an of an ecosystem, but the decomposers are not considered in this ecological pyramids. So these are the limitations. Okay, so this is about ecological pyramids when we talk about and if you nutrient cycles, you have to just go through the nutrient cycles, like how this carbon cycle started, what is the reservoir of carbon, what is the percentage, right, and the organisms that's involved in this conversion of these chemicals, and how this again the carbon is actually coming into the environment is what you have to focus on. Even the uh, like carbon cycle, phosphorus cycle, right? So these important aspects of this system, this lesson would be even the next one is ecological succession, right? So ecological succession would be one of the important aspects of this lesson as well. So you have to get that what is seed. For example, what is the definition of seed? For example, the entire sequence of communities that successfully change in, it means that succession is nothing but the change over a period of time, right? So how this succession is happening, how this formation of this the entire organisms are happening in a particular area, that is what we call the succession. For example, uh, it will have several stages as well. So this succession would occur in several stages, and it is very slow, and predictable change also can be seen in this ecological succession. So in this succession concept, there would be order of succession, right? Phytoplankton, rooted submerged, and rooted floating, and then free floating. So this order of this succession is important. So they may jumble up this order, and then they may come up with different confusing confusing options. So you need to be careful with that. Okay, and then so this lesson is too vast. That's why it's taking this much of time, and important as well, ecosystem lesson. And these two cycles, carbon and phosphorus cycle, you can just go through it. And what is the differences between this carbon and phosphorus cycle is just try to touch it, right? At the same time, what are the organisms and what is the percentage of dry weight, or what is the reservoir of carbon? These are the things you need to focus on. Okay, so these are the aspects of ecology, I mean ecosystem chapter. So which are more important? I already touched everything, right? I have given some ecological ecosystem services also, right? You just go through with the in the material. Okay, with this, what we can do is we will start the next lesson, that is human health and disease. So far, are you able to follow, guys? Amma, are you able to follow? We are talking now. We will be talking about chapter 8. Okay. So we have 10 minutes time, right? 10 minutes. What I can do is how far we can go with this eighth lesson. We will go because tomorrow also we have human health and disease. And you were wondering that human health and disease very important chapter. Now you see, right? The COVID-19 is taken over the entire humanity. Now everyone is sitting at home. Every plans are collapsed, but we are finding out vaccine. We are making a lot of efforts to raise awareness, protect others, serve others, right? So that's why don't underestimate this lesson. And that's why I kept 2 days for this lesson, so that the today you can complete at least the half of the part of the lesson. So if you talk about the human health and disease, we will be always starting about the different definitions of health given by the WHO. And the WHO, now everyone knows, right? Now it is a friendly organization for everyone, even uneducated, and uneducated, aware people also knows who is WHO, right? So WHO statements can be asked as either correct or incorrect in this type of questions. Okay, in the need questions, if it is a kind of an easy kind of a paper or a moderate. Okay, when coming to this human health and disease, right, we will be talking about common infectious diseases in man. Like what we have a common infectious diseases like typhoid. You have to remember about typhoid Mary and its tests. I already told many times that you have to remember the table, right? Whenever you read about this human health and disease, you have to go through that table again and again and again, so that it will be very much easy for you even in the first 2 semesters of your medical courses as well, right? For now, for the need is concerned, right, that table is very important, which I have given in the class itself, right? And whatever you have done in the assignment as well, right? And then in this common diseases, we'll be talking about the typhoid. So you'll be always you have to practice the names. You should get that names right. For example, typhoid, salmonella, typhi, right? And then what is the mode of transmission? And then you have to talk about the symptoms, like, and then diagnostic tests. Now you can see the COVID-19 has a different diagnostic tools like that. You now understand how important is that the diagnostic tool, isn't it? So that's how the diagnostics are, like, for example, viral test in the case of typhoid, right? When we talk about common infectious disease, and then when we talk about pneumonia, even few texts they were given common cold. Along with the common cold, even coronavirus is also given in few books. But NCERT, they didn't cover coronavirus, but maybe they will be updating in the later session, right? The severe respiratory, disease causing viral infections, right? SARS, you have a syndrome, severe, right? So SARS, etc., right? Even when we talk about common cold, rhinoviruses, and even if we are talking about the viruses, you please touch whether what is the genome of that virus, whether it is a RNA virus, a DNA virus. What is the genome of the COVID-19? Genome of the COVID-19. Yeah, RNA virus. Yeah, yeah, correct. Single stranded RNA. right? Even in the virus, when we talk about virus, right, is it single stranded, double stranded, positive sense need, is the positive sense RNA also you need to be taken care of. So when we talk about this common diseases, these are the aspects you need to cover about, right? Especially the bacterial diseases, viral diseases, helminthic diseases, fungal diseases. So you talk about viral disease. We have a rhinovirus, common cold causing rhinoviruses, to severe respiratory syndrome causing COVID-19. So these are the important aspects that you need to cover. Okay, right? And then coming to helminthic disease again. So this entire common diseases, you need to know its disease name and then its mode of transmission, causative agent. Don't get confused with the causative agent with any other term, right? So causative agent, right? And then mode of transmission, and then symptoms. Maybe symptoms they may give incorrect or right statements. You have to pick, or they may give section A, section B, and you have to identify that what kind of an disease is helminthic type. If it is very dead easy, but they don't ask this kind of a question, what disease and all, but they may confuse you with the different statements. So the examples of these diseases and causative agents and mode of transmission, symptoms, and the diagnostic tests are very much important. And when it comes to prevention and control of these diseases, statements, public health hygiene, personal hygiene. Now we are washing, right? Washing our hands. We are not touching our faces, right? Washing, and we are sneezing like a dab, right? So this is dabbing, right? So we are not sneezing like this. We are sneezing like this. So when we sneeze like this, the respiratory droplets would go down, directly down, right? It is not, so that you can wash your hands afterward. If you sneeze like that, what happens? You will touch every other object. So that's why we dab like this when it comes to coronavirus. But even it's always a right practice to sneeze in this way. Okay. So in this way, we have to promote the personal hygiene at the same time public hygiene. So these prevention and control of these diseases can be asked as correct or incorrect statements. So with this, what I can do is the common diseases today, you try to revise how much you can revise the human health and disease, but you try to focus on ecosystem more, right? The last part, ecological succession. Tomorrow also, if we have time, I will try to talk about ecological succession, etc. We didn't have much time today, but anyways, today you complete human health and disease. It's a 12 standard, so we have studied as many times as possible. At the same time, if you have doubts, ask me. And tomorrow we'll continue from immunity and remaining aspects of the lesson, human health and disease. So that is it for today, guys. And please subscribe before you leave. At the same time, if you like this video. At the same time, when it comes to yesterday's worksheet, there were two options were wrong. That is, when we talk about copper tea actually, it actually nothing to do with implantation, but it actually stops the fertilization. So you need to correct that one. So that is one of the aspect. And then there is one more question we have, that is pills. Okay, pills. When we talk about pills can actually interfere with the ovulation and implantation also. Okay, but in the options they gave only ovulation, I guess. So please correct these two questions from yesterday's sheet. And thank you for your interaction here. And please go to that link and have a look at that website. I'm creating that website, right? So we can make use of that. You can make use of website, and you can post articles also if you can submit to me. But now after the NEET, okay, you go through that website and access that link, right? Okay, so access that link, and then you can get that material. Okay, so today whatever. Okay, thank you, guys. So that is it for today. We'll talk tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Access that link and download the material. Okay, I'll be keep updating about those. Thank you guys. Yeah. Hope you understood. Within less time, the ecosystem chapter is too much a lengthy chapter. So that's what remaining aspects we can cover tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you. See you. Take care. Stay home. Stay safe.